Hello, everyone. I'm Jack Fisher. Welcome to my world, and welcome to another Jack Quick Reacts, because I just got back from seeing Thunderbolts in the theaters, and I want to react while it's still fresh. I'm sure there'll be plenty of other reviews, reactions, and hot takes going on, so please bear with me. I'm not editing this audio as much. This is not some video essay. I'm not going to try to break down every angle of this movie. I just want to give my overall response to it. And by and large, I was really impressed. I kind of went in with decent expectations. I always have a high bar for Marvel movies, no matter what the Rotten Tomatoes scores or the Metacritic scores say. The MCU has kind of earned its bar over the years, but this one, it exceeded my expectations in unexpected ways. Now, I knew this movie was going to be different from other Marvel movies. It was billed to be different. It was kind of marketed as less of a standard superhero movie and more as this more grittier, it was less spectacle and more substance type of a superhero movie. And that kind of, that fits. The Thunderbolts, at least in the comics, have always been a bit of they're very unheroic heroes is the best way to describe them. In fact, a lot of the characters on the team have been outright villains at times. And, I got to say, more than anything else, this movie really does capture the essence of the source material. I know that the cast and circumstances may be different in the comics, but the spirit is definitely there in this movie. It really does. It fits not just what the current state of the MCU, but it just it works on its own as well. This isn't a movie where you have to have seen multiple movies, although it does help if you've seen Black Widow, and you didn't have to see Brave New World either. It was only referenced a couple of times, but I think other than Black Widow, you really don't need to know a whole lot about what's been going on in the MCU, because the setup it's pretty simple. It's very straightforward. This is not a movie that is overly complicated, and it's not a movie that tries to make every character like wildly erratic. Everyone is kind of set in a certain way. So, but if the kind of like the catalyst of the movie, it really does start with Yelena, and that's kind of why it's important to see what happened in Black Widow, because Yelena, after that movie, and especially after Hawkeye, even though you don't have to see that, she's not in a good place. She essentially is on her own. Her sister, Natasha, she's dead. She's kind of still just wandering the world, doing random jobs. She's not a hero. In fact, no one in the Thunderbolts are heroes. They're a lot of the cast, whether it's Yelena, John Walker, Buck, or Ghost, they're all kind of just, they're very aimless. They have no desire to be heroes. They have no desire to be part of some larger battle. I mean, they would not be on the front lines of a Chitauri invasion or anything like that. These are all characters who are just trying to get by as best they can, and we don't learn until much later in the movie that they have other reasons that are kind of and I won't say they're selfish, but they are kind of sad, because that's really sort of a recurring theme for every character you encounter. They're sad, they're alone. They really are kind of they're not trying to be heroes. They're just trying to get by. And they all have just some serious issues that have been kind of gnawing at them that they're just avoiding. And that's, it really fits each character. I mean, these are not, you wouldn't expect them to be heroes, but you definitely would expect them to, have a chip on their shoulder, to, have to push a little harder than most just to get by. And but if there is kind of one common thread that binds them all, at least both at the beginning and at the end, it's Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, the character who she's kind of been working in the backgrounds of multiple movies, going all the way back to Wakanda Forever. She played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and she's very cunning. She's very devious. She's the kind of person who she's like, I've heard a lot of people call her sort of like, she's the anti-Nick Fury. She is essentially trying to create her own Avengers, but not for the to save the day. She's she is probably the only truly objectively selfish character in this whole movie. She is not the least bit. There's no altruism to her. There's no real inclination to stand for something greater. She's probably the most unheroic person of anyone we encounter. But she is the one who sort of sets everything into motion, and it's because of her that that the main threat in the movie emerges. And this is kind of where Thunderbolts, I think, really shines, because if this movie stands out in any one way, if this movie's going to kind of set itself apart from the rest of the MCU, it had to do so by bringing in Sentry, aka Bob Reynolds. Now, for those of you who don't know much about Sentry in the comics. Sentry is one of the most powerful but unstable characters in all of Marvel lore. He's kind of like Superman in that he is just supremely overpowered. I mean, at one point in the movie, they say he has like the power of 1,000 exploding suns, and that kind of tracks. Like the power that Sentry has shown in the comics is just absolutely insane. He's ripped apart gods. He's laid waste to Asgard. I mean, they really, for this movie, they definitely had to kind of tone it down. But his power level is kind of secondary. What makes the Sentry so dangerous is the fact that Bob Reynolds. I mean, he's not some altruistic alien from another planet or some paragon of virtue. I mean, this guy he's a bipolar drug addict with serious mental issues. We see some of those issues play out throughout this movie, and they are pretty much on par with what we get in the comics. This is not a stable person. This is not someone who was seeking to become this grossly powered. He essentially he kind of just stumbled into this program that Valentina de Fontaine set up. She essentially was trying to create the Ultimate Avenger. She was kind of like taking the super soldier program to a whole new level. Problem is, almost everyone died, but Bob Reynolds, by fluke or fate, he survived it. But the thing is, again, this guy is not stable. He admits on time. He admits throughout the movie, he's done drugs. He is severely bipolar. He has days where he has just he feels like a god, and other days where he is really just in the dark. And that's kind of where the Void comes in. Now in the comics, the Void is somewhat more complicated. But in this movie, they really streamlined what the Void is. And it's like the Void is really it's like the worst case scenario for anyone with power on the level of the Sentry. Like, take the power of every god in Asgard, take the power of every being that we've seen in the MCU, from Thanos to the Hulk, and just it's literally and put it into the form of that is just objective evil. And it really is the biggest threat that you can imagine. But throughout this movie, the Avengers aren't there. The Avengers aren't coming. They've been disassembled for a long time now, and the only ones who are in a position to do anything about anything is the Thunderbolts. Now, it is kind of funny how they do go by that name at times in this movie, but how the reason for they get that name, I don't actually want to spoil that, because it's hilarious and kind of sweet. So I'll hold off on spoiling that part. The only thing I will spoil is that the Thunderbolts, each character, John Walker, Bob Reynolds, Yelena, Alexei, the Red Guardian, Ghost, they all end up together because of Valentina. I mean, they originally are all kind of they're just pawns. She sends them to essentially clean up some, because she originally thought that the program that created Sentry was a failure, so she wants to get rid of it because she's currently under investigation for some very shady dealings. But and she thinks, I'll just send all of them after each other. They'll kill each other, and problem solved. But problem is, when they encounter one another, they actually start working together to escape. And if they don't know who, when Bob Reynolds comes out, he doesn't have any memory. He's really kind of not all mentally there, but he does try to help them, and he does try to. You do see that this Bob Reynolds Sentry, he has a good side and a dark side, and he's constantly fighting both. And the good side is kind of is the only one who sort of connects with the rest of the characters in Thunderbolts, because he has pretty much nobody else. And that is an important detail, because pretty much everyone else in this, everyone else on the Thunderbolts, they have no one. They really don't have anything else going for them. We learn where they are in their personal lives. Ghost, after she was in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and what happened with David Harbour's character, Red Guardian, after Black Widow. They all sort of are just aimless. And also John Walker, who was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he's really kind of, we found out he's even in a worse place than he was when that show ended. And again, you don't really have to see the show. We find out, they're all in a bad place. They don't know where they fit in, and and you get the sense that even if they actually finished the job, if they all just did what they were instructed to do, they would not be in a better place. The way the movie kind of plays out is like the only way that anything improves for any of them is if they actually work together. And it's really messy how that happens, but at the same time, it works in the sense that they come together as a team, but it's not at all like the Avengers. These are not people who they don't get along, or they don't really they don't respect each other that much at least at first. But the thing is, they understand each other. I think that's really key. They understand each other where they are. They understand what's at stake, and they understand eventually who the real enemy is. I mean, yeah, they get on each other. Yeah, they snipe at each other, and they definitely annoy each other. But at the same time, they eventually do realize they are better working together than trying to do things on their own. And if there is, and the other one person who could also kind of really shines, as is often the case, is Bucky Barnes. Sebastian Stan is back, and he didn't really get a chance to do much in Brave New World, but he definitely shines here. There are a couple of scenes that, again, I don't want to spoil what they are, but trust me, when you see them. Some of the feats that he pulls off are just, they are badass as only the Winter Soldier can provide. And I know Bucky's arc throughout the MCU has been kind of all over the place at times, but in this movie, yeah, he definitely kind of plays the role that I won't say he plays the same role as a Steve Rogers would. He's really sort of he's more of a guide. He's someone who kind of reminds them, hey, you guys, stop fighting each other. We know who the real enemy is, and if you can at least keep it together, I will help you. But you gotta meet me halfway. And it's not a smooth process in terms of them becoming a team, but it does really kind of set the stage for when they do eventually have to confront, both Sentry and the darkness, the void within him, and that is a really intense battle. I mean, the way that plays out, it really is unlike anything we've seen in the MCU to date. I mean, this is not it's not the kind of it's not a flashy spectacle like you got in like Quantumania or in Brave New World. It's not even something that's that's overly flashy like we'd see in Guardians of the Galaxy. This movie, it's dark. The tone is dark, and it's one of those it's one of those struggles that you really can't just beat by punching it. In fact, that's kind of little. I don't won't spoil too much, but it's one of those strikes where when you see Sentry at full power, when you see what he's capable of, there's just no way they can possibly beat them. I mean, even if they had Thor, Hulk, and the OG Avengers on their side, they could not stop Sentry. He was just so overpowered, and the only way to really beat him here is you have to reach out, you have to help Bob, and doing that is a very it's a difficult process for everyone involved. I mean, it does kind of require them to confront stuff that they have been avoiding throughout this whole movie, and the way it kind of plays out, it works, and it's oddly cathartic. I mean, these are characters, again, when you start the movie, you don't expect to really care for them. You don't want to see them as like on the same way you would see the OG Avengers, but they're not trying to be those Avengers. They're trying to be their own thing, and in the end, they succeed. They really do, and it leads to some interesting and awkward situations, especially with Valentina de Fontaine. But it kind of puts the state of the MCU into an interesting place, because again, also there are two post-credit. There's actually a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene. That post-credit scene is important. So yeah, definitely make sure you see that, because it does sort of hint at some much bigger issues to come, and there's going to be some. You get the sense that the Thunderbolts, where they are, they're going to have some big challenges ahead of them, and it's we can see where it's leading. You can see what it's leading to, but even if you take that away, the movie still works. It's much more of less of a superhero movie, and just more of a collection of really broken people just working together to be just somewhat less broken. And I think that works. I mean, it's not a superhero. It's not a superhero's journey by a traditional means. It doesn't try to be, but it really does. It fits. I mean, if you were disappointed by Brave New World, or you kind of are tired of seeing similar plots play out in other MCU movies, I would strongly suggest you give Thunderbolts a chance. It's still a superhero movie, but the heroes are just a lot more broken. They're more broken than usual, and it's definitely a breath of fresh air. I feel like this is kind of something the MCU needed, and I'm glad I saw it. So yeah, definitely give it a shot. It's definitely raises the bar a little bit more, and it kind of bodes. It leaves things in an interesting place as things move forward. So that'll be it. I'm gonna leave it here. Again, this has been Jack Quick Reacts. Thank you all very much. Thank you for joining me in my world. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, everyone, take care and stay safe.